Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Nick Kipper, and we're going to talk about a proposed ordinance that will eventually come up before the Bardstown City Council, hopefully, that you're working on, and it is a livestock ordinance, kind of to revise the current ordinance that exists, right? In
That's
the city
correct.
of Bardstown. So let's first start off talking, it's a livestock ordinance. What does that entail?
Well, it basically says what type of, that livestock is not permitted inside the city limits. And, you know, it's cows, horses, pigs, sheep, goats, everything all the way down to chickens. And we just would like to see that addressed. And
Okay. What you want to see is you want to revise it so that chickens are allowed.
So that chickens, we're not really interested in other types of livestock. We're mostly, our group is interested in getting chickens taken out of that and some provision made for people to be able to keep chickens.
Okay.
And really, this is not something that we've just dreamed up. This is kind of a nationwide movement. Cities all across the country have addressed this and are now considered to be chicken friendly. Generally speaking, the larger the city, the more likely it is that you can keep chickens, and even more types of poultry in some places. Bowling Green, you can keep any type of poultry. Louisville allows chickens. Lexington allows chickens. They allow hens. They won't allow roosters. And you know,
is that
Covington,
a noise issue?
I suspect, yeah. Covington, Pikeville, Paducah. Most of the bigger towns, Elizabethtown doesn't, but most of the bigger towns in Kentucky permit people to have chickens. And it's basically just part of a movement, a local food movement. People want to eat food that's produced locally. You have the whole Kentucky Proud thing in stores. People have gotten very aware of where their food comes and what's in it.
Right. And now, on our table here, we have something that you brought in that we want to talk a little bit about. The reason it's here is for a couple reasons, right? How old is this current ordinance that we have for the city of Bardstown?
From the 50s, basically unchanged. There was some amendment to it in the 90s, but I don't know exactly what it did, if it made it tighter or allowed for chickens that were circus performers or whatever. I really don't
know the specifics.
I don't know the specifics, but it was addressed. But basically, chickens have not been permitted in Bardstown except in areas zoned agricultural. And I know some people, say, well, so-and-so on this street has a horse, or so-and-so has a cow. There are certain parts of Bardstown where the zoning is agriculture, and they can have those things. But for the most part, people can't. And we're not trying to get cows and horses or geese or pigs or anything like that. We're just talking about chickens.
And what's the significance of this canister?
Well, this just kind of shows, to me, this shows the evolution of how people feel about their food and how people have become more concerned about their food being wholesome and not being processed. If you see on the front of this, it brags about being scientifically processed to be even more nutritious than whole potatoes. And it talks about chemicals and all of the things they've done to these potatoes to make these potato chips more nutritious. And I would defy you to find a food product on the shelf that talked about how completely it was processed and how all the science that went into it and the chemicals and all that. That's a selling point for this. And in the 50s, that was the way people looked at things. But today, we're not there anymore. And people want organic food. We also have concerns about animal welfare. Every chicken in your backyard is not in a cage somewhere. And that's a big concern. So, you can go to Kroger and you can buy a dozen organic cage-free eggs for $5, $4.59, in that ballpark. You can produce them yourself for something less than that. And in addition to that, you have a place to get rid of your food scraps and what have you, that chickens will eat practically anything. So you can keep them pretty cheaply and produce your own organic cage-free eggs at way less than $5 a dozen.
So you're part of a group here, a movement in Bardstown that's looking to revise this statute, allow chickens. What's the process currently for this?
Well, the process was for a group of us to kind of approach the city council to ask for this ordinance to be addressed. And there are some people in the city government who are working on it. And, you know, they will figure out a way to, or figure out the language of something that can be presented to the council for a vote. And basically it's going to address people's concerns. People that are worried about the ordinance changing, you know, their concerns fall into three groups or three areas: sight, sound, and smell. And the ordinance would need to, you know, we understand that you can't just say, yeah, get your chickens and turn them loose or whatever, but the ordinance would need to address the concerns of the neighbors, the concerns of the neighborhood, that the chickens are not scratching up somebody's flower bed, they're not running across the road, they're not making a lot of noise, they don't smell bad, they don't look bad. So that's where we are right now. We have a Facebook page, Bardstown Backyard Homesteads. We've got about 450 likes on that page now, people that follow it. And that, you know, that's growing all the time.
Bardstown Backyard
Homesteads. Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, the page is not, we don't just deal with information on chickens. We also have tips on gardening. It's kind of more in the vein of sustainable living. Now, it was started because of chickens, and that's kind of what's in front of us now.
Right. So the city officials are working on a proposed ordinance to kind of work out all the details of stuff. What's the timeline? Do you know when this potentially could come up for a vote? Or is that kind of wait and see at this moment?
That's definitely wait and see. I guess to see how long it takes to actually address people's concerns on the ordinance.
And so we're talking about chickens, but you know, you said that some cities don't allow roosters.
Right.
So is the proposed for Bardstown to allow roosters as well as chickens?
I think, well, personally, I don't care. You know, some people want them, some people don't. Roosters seem to be a taller order to fill to get roosters to be allowed. And, you know, I think our group would be fine with not having roosters. You know, basically, we're about having a backyard flock for egg production. You know, we're not going to be slaughtering the chickens for meat or doing any processing or anything like that. We're just basically looking at egg production.
For chickens?
Yeah.
Or for eggs? Do you need the roosters to get the eggs?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's a little biology that we're learning.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Yes, the hens will lay eggs just fine without a rooster being present. Of course, they wouldn't hatch. There's really only one benefit for having a rooster, and that he's a peacekeeper. The hens, you've heard the term pecking order. It's a very literal thing, that there's a hen that's a boss and second, third, on down the line. A rooster is not going to let any skirmishes happen. But really they serve no more purpose than that, unless you're wanting to hatch chicks.
Okay. So that's a little information on the livestock ordinance that potentially is going to come up for a vote here in Bardstown. If you want some more information, the Facebook page again.
Bardstown Backyard Homesteads.
And you can talk to your council members as well and let them know your opinion on it one way or the other. Now, you had said that some cities are allowing other fowl as well.
Right.
Are you looking to do that, or?
No, not in particular. I think really we have people, you know, people in town have really small lots, and when you're looking at ducks and turkeys and geese, your sight, sound, smell problems are
Compounded.
Yeah, are greatly compounded. Hens, A small flock of hens, 8 or 10 hens, are not an issue. For example, the way you would address some of that in the regulations would be, if the chickens have enough room, they're not going to be dirty, they're not going to be smelly, and so basically, you want to see the hens are treated humanely and have enough room to move around, and you're not going to have a lot of these problems.
And would that, I guess, fall underneath the animal control officers?
That is all being worked out.
too.
What enforcement would be like, and I'm not privy to those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they ask, somebody might ask an opinion sometime, like, will this work, or is this practical? But I'm not in the business of writing the ordinance.
Right. Okay. So, if you want some more information, again, visit their Facebook page. I've been talking with Nick Kipper about the livestock ordinance that might come up for a vote here in Bardstown. Thank you very much.
We hope. Thank you.
All right. It's been Gary White, Central Kentucky Television.